Lyndon Johnson was a very wise man, and one of the things he observed was that without the right to vote, citizenship meant nothing. I was one of many members of Congress and concerned citizens who were working to bring up proper legislation to resolve the terrible problems we had in this country in terms of affording equality to all of our people. In 1963, the country was very much divided, and there was bitter anger all over the place. There were riots and difficulties of all kinds. I think the greatest credit to our African American people and to Reverend King were that Black Americans did this without violence. And to him, the credit goes for the teaching, along with a lot of others, including our good friend John Lewis, who's serving in the House now. The effort was to see to it that it be nonviolent. Well, March was a remarkable accomplishment. A lot of people thought that it was not going to achieve much. Turned out to be one of the major factors that contributed to the enactment of the legislation. It created a climate where ordinary citizens who had not felt any particular need to do anything to resolve the question of the rights of all of our people came to the conclusion that this was something that we had to do, and that citizens were entitled to the right to vote, and they were entitled to all the rights of citizenship. The 64 was, I think, the piece of legislation which did more than anything previously to assure full participation and full citizenship to African American and other minority groups. And it was particularly so because it dealt with the right to vote, and which is an absolutely critical component of citizenship. Without the right to vote, you're not a citizen, and you don't have anything to say really about the running of the country. We finally got the 64 bill to the floor, and it passed. And it was a work of remarkable cooperation between people of all colors, all faiths, and all parties. The president, Johnson, who was a Southerner and so much, and known as such, worked with leadership on the other side of the aisle, Everett Dirksen, to see to it that we got that legislation enacted into law. And of course, there were a lot of other folks who worked in the undertaking, and not the least of whom, as you might very well know, is Reverend King, who was one of the great leaders in terms of making people aware of the need to resolve the problem, but more importantly, to do so in a non-violent way. And if you will read his speeches, you'll find that his teaching was that it should be, in fact, it had to be, done in a nonviolent way. So happily, in 1964, his work and that of the administration of all kinds of people, high and low, organizations, churches, schools, you name it, brought about the enactment of that legislation.